Hello everyone and welcome back to Curious Moon Journaling. So today it's quite gloomy out, so I thought it would be nice if I did a little bit of painting some of my illustrations. I'm going to be using the Arteza gouache paint, so hopefully it will show you how I use those overall. I use them quite a lot. I use them a little bit like a watercolour, but they're also got a really nice punchy kind of pigmentation to them. So they're somewhere in between the acrylics and the watercolours. So I'm going to speed up the video because there's quite a lot to get through, but I will talk over what I'm doing as we go. So I'm starting here with these rose petal illustrations. Now the thing is with the gouache paint is less really is more. So it can take a while to mix up your exact shade that you want, but when you do find that, it's best to kind of dilute it a little bit with some water, but then just go around the edges and just see if you're happy with the shade. And then actually what I tend to do is I just use water to blend outwards, because you can always add a darker pigmentation on top, which is what I tend to do. But it's always nice to get a subtle base as a nice foundation to work with. So that's why I always say kind of like build up rather than going in too strong, which I've definitely done a couple of times while getting used to them. So I'm just going to let you watch a little bit of this now as I fill in all the rest of the colours. So as you can see, as I've been building, I've also added a little bit of yellow at the tip of the petals where they would meet the stem, and also dabbed on some white into the middle to blend that out, and that really gives that three-dimensional kind of feel to it. So I'm happy with those. They will go aside for hopefully a spring or summer journal. And now let's move on to a different illustration. Okay, so here I'm going to be focusing on this bird's nest that I want to do. As you can see, I've got a couple of other illustrations on here that I've already done. I made this little swatch chart for all the different ones I have. I'm going to be using the burnt sienna and burnt umber for this. Making a swatch of your paints or, well, any of your kind of like colourful tools is really useful because they can often look a little bit different than they do in the tubes or even in the pens sometimes. So that's a really useful thing for me, especially for blending as well. Again, I'll speed the video up here because this one is actually quite a lot of layers. So this is a really good example actually of how I start with a kind of base foundation of colour and then really build up, because the nest has loads of different hues and different shadows and highlights in it, so this is really easy to achieve with these kind of paints. So I'm just building up, putting on where the browns would be, and then kind of filling in the twig areas as I go, and just building up those different tones. So starting light and then thinking about where the shadows are going to be, where they would be cast in the nest on the eggs. So these illustrations I will probably set by to use like I said in some of my spring and summer journals. Um, but particularly the nest will be a spring one. And this is just another layer of creativity and kind of like mindfulness of the journaling process. I really enjoy using paints and kind of slowing down the process of creating something that will add to a journal page later on. So I'll just let you sit and watch me filling in the rest of the details. So you can see I've really been able to build all the different tones into this little illustration using those paints, adding all those like darker elements. And then actually when you've added the dark elements, you can go in like with some highlights with some of the white brush strokes, which you can see I've done with a couple of the others. So I always leave those bits till last until I'm just about finished. Okay, so I've got one more illustration to add to this page, and then I'll be able to put those away for safekeeping for when I'm going to use them in spring. The last illustration is this plum that I'm doing at the bottom. That will be a really nice addition to something really summery and juicy and very far away from the gloomy November weather we're having right now. So what I'm doing now is adding some shadow detail into all the different kind of like grooves and the textures. And again, I'll speed this up so you can watch me add all the different details. What I like to do when I have finished painting is I actually use water just around the edges, as you can see here, just to create a softer blend line. I really like the way this looks when I cut them out, but obviously it does mean if you were using them as very kind of precise fussy cuts, they wouldn't necessarily work in the journal because of the blend area. But it's just something to consider because the bleed line looks really pretty, I think, and adds to that watercolour element. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this today and it's got you intrigued about using different kinds of paints. If you've got any questions about the paints I've used, please leave me a comment. and I will get back to you. It's all just about practice, so I really hope this inspires you to pick a couple of motifs of something you like and try it out for yourself. It's a really nice element to add to your journaling. Please remember to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any of the new videos coming out soon. And I really look forward to seeing you again on Curious Moon Journaling. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.